So Choplifter was originally by Dan Gorlin. Now the story goes that Sega wanted to produce some games that would appeal to the Western audience, so they acquired the rights to Choplifter. Now while Sega didn't originally make the game, they certainly improved on the formula, adding music, tons of parallax scrolling, improved sound effects and much more. The idea is pretty simple: fly out into the war zone, rescue the hostages and take them back to the safety of the base. A very basic idea, but an extremely satisfying one. Mind you, the game idea might be basic, but the game certainly isn't. It's quite tough on later levels. Now the Apple II version of Choplifter isn't based upon the Sega arcade game. In fact, none of them are except for the Famicom and the Master System version. So while this is a little bit more basic than the arcade machine, the idea is still the same. You fly out to the war zone, rescue the troops and take them back to the safety of the base. Just like the arcade game though, you can actually kill your own troops by shooting them or actually landing your helicopter on them. The poor buggers. Be careful not to land your helicopter into the flaming buildings though, otherwise you'll be going down too. Looking a lot more basic than the Apple version, and also with a lot more flicker, this Atari 5800 version is still playable. In fact, it plays just the same as the arcade machine really. Although I did seem to have trouble turning my helicopter around. Not sure how you're meant to do it. And as in tradition, Choplifter also came to the Atari 7800. Graphically it's far superior than the 5800 version, although again I seem to have trouble with the controls. Trying to make the helicopter fly forward and stay in the air was not as easy as you'd expect. For some reason the helicopter seems to keep falling down. Now you'd expect this to look a lot better than the Atari 7800 version, but no it doesn't, it actually looks pretty poor. Still, despite its poor graphics, the gameplay is pretty much the same as all the other versions. Although I did notice that turning the helicopter around is a little bit more clunky. And Choplifter also made it to the Coleco Vision. Making good use of nice bright colours of the system, this version is actually quite good. Graphically it's pretty good, and again it plays really well, although in this version, if you slam the helicopter down on the ground, you seem to die. Also, the enemy tanks are ruthless. Now the Famicom version was reprogrammed by Coleco, although it is based upon the Sega arcade game, and it is terrible. You can see straight away that the colour clash is unbelievable. The helicopter looks almost the same colour as the background. Also, the enemy AI is so unfair. You can get shut down with ease. In fact, this game is extremely tough, and not because it's a hard game, but because it's badly designed. It's a terrible port. And where's the parallax scrolling gone? I'd expect the Famicom to have some parallax scrolling. And by far the best home version is the Master System version, based upon the Sega arcade and arguably looking better than the original arcade in some respects. And what's amazing is this Master System version also has all the parallax scrolling. Now it may look a little bit jerky on this video, that's something to do with the frame rate of when it was being captured, but believe me, in reality this game is extremely smooth. The basic idea of the game is exactly the same. You fly out, pick up your troops and take them back to base, while trying to avoid being blown out of the sky. Now the game does have a little bit of flicker here and there, but you can sort of look over that. The controls are really nice, very tight, and the challenge is just about right. Definitely, without a doubt, the best home port available. Surprisingly for an MSX, the scrolling is extremely smooth on this game. Then again, it doesn't have any parallax scrolling, but who needs that when the game plays fairly well? This game is pretty similar to the Atari versions in the way it looks and the way it plays. Sure, there's a little bit of flicker here and there, but the game still plays fairly well. Not bad for the MSX. Now there are a few other versions of Choplifter which were not featured on this video, mostly for the Atari 8-bit systems, the 8-bit computers that is. Unfortunately I couldn't get them to work. There's also a Fujitsu version for the FM7, which again, couldn't get to work.